So here we're looking at all of the trig ratios, but we're going to use them to calculate missing angles. So the biggest thing is you have to have a 90-degree triangle, and then you need to know at least two sides of that triangle. So in the try these, says, is the given ratio for angle theta the trig ratio for sine, cosine, or tangent? So you want to take a look at 5 over 13. So there's 5 and there's 13. So is that, when we compare it to angle A, what ratio do we use? Well, 5 is adjacent and 13 is opposite. Is hypotenuse. So here, label the hypotenuse because that's never going to change. The opposite and adjacent depend on which angle you're looking at, but the hypotenuse is always the longest side. So now 5 over 13 for angle A is cosine because it's adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's the cos of angle A. Comparing to angle A, 12 over 5. So now that's, I'll do it in red. It's this one over this one. And so compared to angle A, that's opposite. And this, remember, was adjacent. So opposite over adjacent is tan of angle A. And then 12 out of 13 over 13 is opposite over hypotenuse. So that's sine. Okay. So those are the trig ratios. You might have heard of an abbreviation called SOHCAHTOA. And so the capital letters represent the trig ratios. So this is sine, this is cosine, this is tangent, and then these are the actual sides. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So if you go on YouTube, you can probably find a little song that helps you remember it. And so it might be worthwhile for you to do that. Okay, get those memorized. Okay, so let's take a look here. It says, Girolf is a lifeguard. At 2 o'clock, his shadow is 76 centimeters. What is the angle of elevation of the sun at that time to the nearest degree? So remember your shadow, basically up here, here's the sun up here. And so it's shining down on this person and causing the shadow on the ground. So the angle of elevation here is x. Elevation always goes from the horizontal upwards. And so that's x. And we need to calculate it. So we have to look at what we have. We have 76, which is adjacent. So maybe I'll switch here to blue. So this is the adjacent side to x, and this is the opposite side. This side here would be the hypotenuse, but we don't need it. Okay, so opposite of x over adjacent of x is tan of x. Okay, so tan of x is 1.7 meters, which is 170 centimeters. So either one of these, you just have to be consistent. So for the adjacent in centimeters, that's 76. In meters, that's 0.76. The ratio is still going to be the same. Now, to determine the value of the angle, you need to use the inverse operation on your calculator. So you need to press the second key. So it really depends on what type of calculator you have. If you have one that shows the tan ratios, TAN, or sine and that kind of thing, then you'll do it the same method as I will. So you're going to go second key, and we're using tan. So you'll see this tan with a little -1. That means you're doing the inverse. You're trying to find the angle. And then we'll go 170 divided by 76. Close the bracket, enter. Oh, it did it twice. Now, let's say I use the the meters version, then that would be second tan 1.7. Oops, that did it twice. Sorry. Second tan 1.7 divided by 0.76. Bracket, enter, and that gives you the same value. Okay, it should 65.9. Okay, so solve for x. So we did this. What did it just say it was? 65.9. And that's degrees. Now, if we round to the nearest whole number, it's 66 degrees. Now, if you have a calculator that doesn't show the word tan, okay, then you're going to have to do the 1.7 divided by, 1.7 divided by 0.76 first. It's doubling up. Okay, and then you're going to have to do your second key, tan key. I can't do it that way on this particular calculator, but if you don't see the word tan, you're going to have to put the values in first. Okay. All right, next one says a cable is secured at the top of a cliff to create a zip line. So here's the zip line. What angle does the zip line make with the ground? So this angle X. Okay. So that angle Y is called the angle of depression. When you're going from the horizontal downwards, that's angle of depression. Now, you've learned your angle rules. If you have two parallel lines, like these are parallel with a transversal, then this Y is the same as this X. So if we can find X, then we'll find the angle of depression. Okay, so we have two sides. We have the opposite to X, and we have the sorry, I gotta delete because I can't see everything here. Yeah, so we have opposite and hypotenuse. So that is sine. Go over, there should be some space. So what angle does the zip line make with the ground? That's the opposite side of X over the hypotenuse. And so the opposite side, what did we just say there? Opposite was 15 here, and the hypotenuse was 39. So we're doing the sine of X. All right, so now in our calculator, it's going to look like X inverse sine. That's what it sounds like, the words for it. And so if we get that out, again, does depend on your calculator, but for sure, no matter which type, you will be pressing the second or shift key with sine for the angle. So we'll go second sine, and then 15 divided by 39. Close bracket, enter, 22.6. Okay, so I guess it's about 23 degrees. So take a look then back at the diagram. As I mentioned, there are some horizontal lines. The angle of depression is up here. We just calculated this, but we know that those are equal by that Z rule was the abbreviation. So those are alternate interior angles. So how can the horizontal lines? Because they form, how would we word that? They form two parallel sides and two parallel lines, and X and Y are alternate interior angles. So you learn that in chapter 7. Okay, so that means the angle of depression is 23 as well. Okay. And then there's just some practice for you to work on.